Being diagnosed with cancer marks the beginning of a life-changing journey full of many challenges. They can be physical, practical, mental and emotional. Some of the challenges are common to all of us, but for many there are issues that arise because you were diagnosed with a particular type of cancer. But let's start at the beginning. Just what is it normal to feel when you're first diagnosed with cancer?
I remember going outside in the car park where I was diagnosed at a clinic and sort of feeling a bit weird and not really accepting it. And then, of course, the phone rang and it was my sister, and then it rang again, it was my husband, all the people that were concerned and worried. And, of course, they all had to go into a shock statement. And then you're sort of worrying about how people are going to handle you telling them. And it sort of takes away from what you're really dealing with as well. And you have 3 or 4 days of just total denial, I think. And then I think I hit shock and of how I'm going to deal with it. It's not the best experience in your life, and, you know, you do get through it, and, you know, there's years to go ahead, and hopefully there's years where you'll think, well, that was a dim, distant memory.
When people are told that they've got cancer, it's quite an overwhelming experience. Cancer, we talk about it as if it's one word, but it's actually a whole range of different illnesses, and people's reactions to cancer can be just as varied as the illness they've been diagnosed with. We do, however, hear some commonalities in the types of feelings and emotions that people experience when they've had cancer, and they talk about things like being shocked, feeling of disbelief, how can this be happening? There's a sense of anger, frustration at times. People can feel embarrassed, sad and upset, obviously worried and anxious. And sometimes even people talk about a sense of relief because they've known that there's something that's not quite right, and then they've now got a reason for that and a plan for dealing with it. So sometimes we hear positive emotions in response to a diagnosis of cancer as well. It's important to remember that feelings are temporary and they don't tend to persist over time, that they do change, and so there's no right or wrong way to actually respond to a diagnosis of cancer, and it will vary over time. Some people talk about it as a bit of a roller coaster, so they have times when they're up and feeling quite positive and okay about it, and other times when they're feeling down and fairly flat and worried about the situation. And that roller coaster tends to go on from diagnosis through treatment, and even after treatment is finished, sometimes you still have those same kinds of emotions. Some people will talk about a feeling of why me, how come it's happened to me, and this is quite a reasonable and normal feeling. This also can sometimes pass when people move into more of an action stage of how they're going to deal with this, and when they have a plan and a sense that there is a way through and a way forward in dealing with their cancer. Other people can be quite worried about their negative feelings and a sense that this ongoing stress might impair their recovery, delay their recovery, or make the cancer grow faster. And there's been a lot of research done into this topic, and there's no conclusive, no consistent evidence that emotions can cause cancer or emotions can impair your treatment. So it's really important to remember that if you have negative feelings, that's okay, that's quite normal, and that these will change over time. So people can be worried that feeling stressed and having negative thoughts may impact on their cancer treatment, and we know that this isn't the case. It can be useful, however, to deal with persistent negative thinking or ongoing stress simply because it can help improve your mood while you're dealing with your illness. Some people don't feel stressed and worried. Feel that they can take this on board and keep, moving forward. And oftentimes when people are first diagnosed or in that early treatment stage, it's a sense of action and a sense of I'm doing something about this. So sometimes people can feel quite positive and focused in these early stages as well.
I think it's really important that they then seek some support. Certainly they'll get professional support, but I'm talking about support from those around them. If they were living by themselves, then they'd be looking to their friends and close acquaintances. Naturally, we assume that they won't be, and therefore they would look to family and seek support immediately from family. They need to inform family, let family know what the circumstance is. And in times like that, I think it's fair to say that families generally rally. When the crisis develops, they tend to come together, which is a real positive aspect of families, even though they might be bickering and carrying on about lots of other things. When you get death staring you in the face, or a major illness staring you in the face, then typically families do come together. So that's a real asset, and I think people get support then from those close around them. They can share it, they can talk about it, and as you full well know, a problem shared is a problem halved. And so it's about sharing with family and close people who are close to you.
The role of the counsellor is really to provide a space for you to talk about whatever it is that's concerning you, whether it's emotions or any thoughts or fears you may have about the cancer diagnosis. It's a place where whatever you talk about is confidential, so that you know that you're not distressing your family and friends with perhaps some thoughts that you're a bit reluctant to share with others. It can be a safe place to really talk about your deepest fears or your greatest hopes, or even to talk about things that you're reluctant to share with those around you. In counselling, I suppose initially what we would do is work with you about your story about the cancer diagnosis, what it means to you, and any questions that you might have. Quite often people feel very alone in the cancer diagnosis. It raises all sorts of fears and anxieties, and often it's enough to know that in fact that's a very normal reaction to having this sort of news, that it's not something that's easy to come to terms with for anyone. So I guess in counselling you can get that understanding. All of our counsellors are very experienced in working with people with cancer, that you're not alone, that other people have experienced this and they have got through a lot of that pain and distress. Sometimes just sharing those feelings can be enough, because often when we open up and share feelings, they lose a bit of their power. The same with thoughts. Any painful thoughts we're having, actually bringing them out into the open can make them seem not quite as scary or not quite as frightening as they are when we keep them to ourselves. For some people though, the diagnosis of cancer can really bring up some past sadnesses and some past griefs. And some people can be surprised to find that things they felt they dealt with years ago have suddenly re-emerged, and they're having to think about it all over again. And again, counselling can be a safe place to really talk about things that others around you may have thought you'd got over years ago, or that just weren't important anymore.
The very first thing that I did, I actually went and saw my parish priest. That was 11 o'clock in the morning, and believe me, it was a bit like Tony Soprano going to the confessional. There was a lot of ground to cover. And after that, I felt as though I could handle the situation a lot better. It didn't cure my cancer, but I must say that for some inexplicable reason, I didn't think about calling the cancer council at all. I did not think about it. And to this day, I just do not know why.